I'm the new best thing, better than you've ever seen. I'm the new best thing, I'm gonna be the king. I bring that ching, ching, ching. Yeah, I'm the new best thing, I'm the new best thing.
Welcome to Hedera Forum, guys. We're very happy you could join us. Two very special guests for you this week. We've got Tom Street with Everywhere Limited out of the UK. Last week we learned about some very topical and relevant news that Everywhere will be partnering with the National Health Service over in the UK to monitor temperatures of the COVID-19 vaccines in certain areas. We'll also be joined by Christian Hasker, who is the Chief Marketing Officer for Hedera. Christian's been on before, and we're happy to welcome him back. We'll be talking about the hackathon, tokenization, and it'd be good just to catch up, and I'm sure we'll chat about some other things in the community. So thanks for joining us, and let's go. Hello, and welcome to Hedera Forum. We're happy you could join us again. For this week's episode, we've got two great members to join us. As always, I'm joined by Brandon with the Monetary Reset and Hedera Forum. Hey, Brandon, how are you?
How's it going, guys?
And we're thrilled to welcome in Tom Street, the co-founder of Everywhere Limited, a UK-based company who we learned some information about last week, and they're doing some really great work over in the UK. Good afternoon, Tom. How are you today?
Hi, Jesse. Hi, Brandon. I'm very well, thank you. It's great to be here. Looking forward to talking with you.
And we're also joined by none other than Mr. Christian Hasker, the Chief Marketing Officer for Hedera. This is his second appearance, back by popular demand. Hello and good morning, Christian. How are you?
I am doing very well. Thank you for having me back on, and thank you to the community, especially those who are new and maybe tuning in for the first time. Jesse and Brandon do a fantastic job on this show, and it's been great to watch the evolution of the Hedera Forum. So good job, gents.
Well, thank you. Those are very kind words. I think you were on maybe an early episode, maybe the third episode or so, and offered some early support that meant a lot to us. So thank you for that, and very much looking forward to the discussion today. Why don't we just start with some brief introductions? Tom, why don't we go to you first? Like I said, Tom Street, co-founder of Everywhere. A little bit about your background and how you've come to work with Hedera.
Yeah, no problem. So my name's Tom Street. I'm the technical director at Everywhere. And we're a company, as Jesse said, based in the UK, and we specialize in what we call remote asset monitoring and tracking. And that means that we are using technology, IoT-based technology, specifically sensors in cloud, to monitor assets and really look to provide a layer more information than you typically have in an asset management type system. So we've been working with Hedera for a while now, and I'm excited to talk about that in more detail and what we're doing together.
Very cool. And Christian, for our first-time viewers, a little introduction in your background in working with Hedera?
Yeah, so I've been at Hedera since it was before Hedera, when it was just Hashgraph, and Manson Lehman were dreaming up how to put together a public ledger backed by Hashgraph. And I head up all our marketing initiatives here at Hedera and love working with the community. We are a decentralized network, so I think in a lot of respects, it's great to see that you have picked up the baton of the marketing as well. That's, how we're going to reach the masses. So thank you for all you do. Really appreciate it. And not just you, other people in the community as well. Over just the last couple of weeks, we've seen a real uptick with the amount of social engagement and reach, and that's just wonderful to see.
Yeah, Brandon and I have discussed that. We've noticed that as well, and couldn't be happier about that. So we're happy. We are a community-produced podcast, mainly Brandon and myself, but we've had many guests on from the community, and we're excited to be the bridge to the community for some of the folks like Tom who have exciting use cases that are being implemented now. So why don't we go there? And Brandon, you want to go ahead with the first questions for Tom?
Sure, we'll jump right into it. You've already kind of touched on it, Tom, but you got some really good media coverage this past week with your use case. Why don't you just tell us a little about what you guys announced?
Yeah, sure. The media coverage has been really exciting, and I appreciate all the support that we've had from the community, and feedback has been brilliant. So And I think it's really gratifying to actually get some recognition for, being part of helping out. I think, just doing our small part, I know it sounds a bit of a cliche, but, when there's something that is going on like a pandemic, it's nice to sort of be part of the solution in that sense, albeit, in a very small way. And so we started working with the NHS some years ago now. In the UK, it's broken down into different administrative areas. There are over 200 of them. And we work with an area in the Midlands where we're based. And we started off from a capacity of, IoT capacity, which is, I suppose, at the core what our company does, monitoring fridges in their pharmacy to be able to determine that the temperature of the drugs is being kept within a safe range, which is typically between 2 and 8 degrees. Historically, nurses would have to do this job manually. So they twice a day need to be able to read a temperature off the front of the fridge, write it down, which of course is open to all kinds of mistakes and just being missed because they're busy, which, it happens, it's a real problem. But the issues with that are that you could come back in overnight and there's been a temperature issue. They wouldn't know about it, but the drugs might be ineffective, or they do know that there has been a temperature variation, but they're going to have to throw away all those drugs. So there are very real problems associated with that, least of which is that, people could lose their lives if they're not given effective medicines. So our system, in the first instance, it automates that process. So we have a sensor that goes onto the fridge and that monitors the temperature in the fridge. The data then goes into a smart hub locally, which creates a mesh network across the area with a number of different devices that will monitor that, that will connect to that. And all that data then goes up into our cloud where it can be processed and analyzed in real time. And we'll be taking a reading from every fridge and from every room temperature area as well. So it's not just fridges, it's the rooms where we've got sort of controlled drug cabinets and room temperature equipment. It gets recorded every minute, and we then just do some basic analysis in real time on top of that to determine if there's been a problem based on the temperature going outside of its range. So over the past year or 2 years, we've been gradually rolling out into the wider and into the whole trust that we're dealing with. And now we're dealing with the pandemic, and we are in a situation where we can help monitor the drugs that are being used, the vaccines that are being used to help stop this kind of, end this situation. And I suppose it could be serendipity that over the past sort of 18 months, 12 months, and more recently over the past few months that we've been working with Hedera, just in the capacity of looking at, what we could do with the Hedera consensus service in IoT scenarios. And we have this scenario of monitoring the vaccines and adding the Hedera layer into our tech stack means that we then gain that trust layer as part of our application. So, we talk about data integrity a lot. And I think I mentioned earlier that if you have bad data going in, then you're going to get bad data going out. And especially the more and more analytics, AI and machine learning is now being done on top of automated systems with sensors. It's so important to make sure that you've got provenance over your data all the way through that chain. So, we're looking at this from a data integrity, data provenance perspective. But we're really excited about the opportunities, in terms of being able to use Hedera as a sort of an integration broker. The recent news about the Hedera token service, really fits into our asset monitoring model. We can start to look at just tokenizing everything out there, really. So tokenize the world.
Yeah.
So it's been a good journey up to here, and we're excited about where this is going to go into the future. And everybody at Hedera has been fantastic to work with, I will say.
Well, thanks, Tom. Follow-up question. You mentioned this seems like it's 2021 now. It's hard to imagine that nurses would physically be monitoring temperatures of refrigerators in hospitals. It's like one of those problems you weren't sure existed, but
I know.
After you learn about it, it's like, well, we can do better than that. So
Not only that, sorry to interrupt, but the cost of that, over a year, if you add up those little 5 minutes here and there to stop what you're doing, write this down, go back to what you're doing, it literally adds up to hundreds of thousands of pounds or dollars or whatever your currency over a very short period of time. And that's only in a small case. I mean, that really can make a difference, not to mention the reduction in wastage.
Maybe even more importantly, it takes them away from the important job that they're doing, even if for 5 or 10 minutes. So
absolutely.
One of those things that you learn about and you can't believe that hasn't been solved. So good to hear that there's a solution in place. In my limited research, I think you're working in 2 hospitals now. And would there be plans to expand to other portions of the country or other hospitals, and or additional aspects of the supply chain? So not just on site at the hospital, but maybe on the plane or in the truck or at the warehouse. Can you explain maybe other plans you have to expand?
Yeah, so we are working at the moment with the whole trust. There are, and obviously with the information about the coronavirus vaccine, and there's an amount of sensitivity about that. So I can't say definitively where it is or where it isn't. That's sort of part of their rollout strategy. But yeah, we're monitoring the vaccine in the locations that they're holding them, and they're not, they'll sort of roll them out from there. We are, as I said earlier, there are over 200 trusts and administrative areas in the UK. We have ongoing conversations with a few of them. But, obviously there is a public tendering process that we have to go through in order to be able to win those contracts, even sort of between the different trusts, which is, it has its plus points and its bad points, but it means that companies like ours that might not be taken seriously in terms of, we're a specialist provider of technology, and for a hospital to look at us specifically because either we're dealing with cutting edge technology, it's a good validator for us that we can work with those hospitals, and we're looking to expand into other areas. And I mean, one of the great benefits of using Hedera is that we can share information more easily. And one of the things that I've been sort of talking about throughout this media exposure is that, we really want to be able to work with other parties in that supply chain. So not just, us, we would consider ourselves as the last mile, if you like, but you've already mentioned tracking the vaccine as it comes from the manufacturers through the various distribution hubs and in transit. And we have technology to do that. And in fact, we are monitoring as well high value assets within the hospital, and that includes geolocation. So the technology exists, and it's there and it's ready to go, and we can either hook up more of the supply chain, but I think it's really important that we have multiple parties within the supply chain working together, agreeing to share the data so that we can get end-to-end traceability, because I don't think that's happening at the moment.
Sure. So, Tom, I think Everywhere's been around since about 2015. Was it always your plan to integrate blockchain or DLT technology, or is that just something that's happened more recently?
The short answer is it's happened more recently. We started off as an IoT company. It's a term I don't really like because it's such a big umbrella term. It's a bit like blockchain in a sense. It gets used like anything, or I could rant about the use of AI for hours because it gets misused. Anyway, bit of a tangent. But no, DLT wasn't always on the horizon. I became aware of smart contracts initially, as they're known on Ethereum, from sort of early 2016 or 2017 when that came out, and there was a bit of a buzz around that. Obviously, there still is. But my background is enterprise software, enterprise architecture. I've worked with IBM software, SAP software, and it's quite different how that world works. It's not easy to adopt sort of that adoption of public technology, let's say. you've actually got to make a value case for using it, and there are some really good high profile cases, but to get businesses to buy into it and to use it, there's really got to be a value case. It wasn't until really 18 months ago, I say, that I became aware of Hedera, probably in a way that a lot of people got introduced into Hedera who are in the community. And
okay, where did you learn about it? Where did you first hear about it?
Oh, that was a Mike Maloney video.
Okay.
Shout out to Mike.
Okay, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. It's just it's a question we like to ask people.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And when I found out about Hedera, it seemed like it was a natural fit. I always thought there was a natural fit, but as I said, coming from an enterprise background, fitting in smart contracts to your enterprise where you want to have privacy of data, but you want the public verifiability. I didn't know how you'd be able to sort of square that circle as an enterprise. And obviously with Hedera, we can use HCS. It's so easy to integrate into the platform, and just calling it like any other API means that we can get the benefit of the trust, the verification, the communications that are possible as a broker, all as part of that platform. And it got to the point where I knew it was going to be on our roadmap. I knew that DLT was at least as important as the invention of the internet, without overstating that. And so it was a matter of if and not when. And it was actually, via the community, when I was sort of discussing there some months ago about what we were doing with the NHS, that Alex got in touch with me from Hedera and said, it's really interesting what you're talking about. And, one thing led to another. And, it got to the point where it seemed like a good time to integrate that into our roadmap. And I'm, really pleased that we have, because it's an opportunity as well for us to learn about the technology and how to apply that, how to turn that into a good business value case. And as I said, I really think it's as big as the early days of the internet. So whilst it might have been immediately apparent what the function of an email was back in the day, stuff that we take for granted now, like Netflix, we just didn't even envision at that point. And I think we're at the same point, if not earlier, with DLT, that we're going to look back in a few years and we won't be able to believe what's been created. So it's fun to be at that early stage in that journey, and hopefully have our name in the history books as well, perhaps.
It is exciting, no question.
Very cool. One more for you, Tom. So you mentioned that you're also tracking other assets. As far as the Hedera consensus service is concerned and what you have integrated up until this point, is that limited only now to the COVID vaccines, or will that extend to other assets that you're also monitoring?
I'd really like to extend that to other assets as well. So, the NHS isn't our only customer. And in fact, we work in other industry sectors, from industrial to environmental. And there, I see a lot of good use cases for DLT. Excuse me. We've now integrated the platform. We've now integrated HCS more or less fully into our platform. And I expect to expand that as well in future, so that we can bring those benefits to other customers. I mean, it benefits ourselves anyway. So for us just to be able to prove that we haven't messed with any of the data that we're holding is great. But if we can offer that to our customers, and, really as simple as perhaps like topping up credits on your mobile phone, as you would have done a long time ago. Now we can a customer through our platform, they can top up their HBAR, and, then they can have more data integrity. Or, as I say, when we start to look at tokenization, to be able to more tightly couple that, I definitely see, that's the future of our roadmap.
All right, Brandon, I think, do we have one more for Tom?
Well, I think it's time to give Tom a break here, give him a little bit of a break, let him put a different hat on. He can put the community hat on, and if he wants to ask any questions to Christian, he certainly can. But we'll jump over to Christian real quick. So Christian, we've had a lot of exciting things going on with the hackathon, with tokenization. Why don't you let us know a little bit what's going on in the world of Hedera marketing?
Yeah, so we are prepping for the marketing launch of Hedera Token Service. And that's going to be, I think, a very exciting launch, because with a token service, it's important to launch with an ecosystem. Unlike with Hedera Consensus Service, where you offer this piece of technology, and it's great to hear what Tom's doing with it. You know, that computational trust as a service backed by world-class governance is, you know, as Tom said, it's so easy to integrate with your existing application. Didn't have to rebuild something from the ground up, retrofit it. It literally is an API call. So if you think about the opportunities that that now offers, which Tom has touched on a little bit, combined with tokenization, you know, we're headed to a world where the entire global economy, hundreds of trillions of dollars, will be tokenized, no doubt. What time frame that happens in, that's up for debate. But, you know, Tom has hooked into this computational trust as a service. Now he has, you know, proof that the integrity of the data is sound. Now you can do things like have other people contribute data streams to that. You can tokenize that data. You create value exchange around that data. You can tokenize the sensors on every single refrigerator, issue a token against it, have its whole history tied to that token. It's really very, very powerful. And this is not accidental. When we talk about marketing strategy, we're really talking about the overall Hedera strategy. So Lehman invented the most groundbreaking consensus algorithm ever invented. I know some people may take issue with that, but as far as I'm concerned, and people who are very technologically savvy, they would not disagree with that. He solved an incredibly hard problem. So by offering this consensus as a service, you then get real use cases, real enterprise use cases tapping into it. It's no accident that when you look across the breadth and depth of use cases that Hedera has, we have more use cases than any other public ledger out there. And especially when you come to real business use cases, solving real business problems, as Tom is doing. You know, I would stack us up against anyone in the market and say, you know, bring your use cases. How do you beat this set of use cases? And it's been amazing to see the community do that. Now, you can think of it almost like a gateway drug, HCS, Hedera Consensus Service. It's so easy to hook into. Now, organizations like Tom's everywhere can take the time to think about the roadmap and say, how can we create real value exchange around this thing that we're doing? And that's the promise of tokenization. But in order to launch into the tokenization market, which today there's only one player in that space, that's Ethereum. You know, no one else is competing. That's where all the value is. What does Ethereum have? They don't have the best technology, but they have by far and away the best ecosystem, the best developer tools, the best exchanges, the best wallets. And that's what you need in order to break into this market. So the hackathon really helps, you know, organizations come and kick the tires on Hedera Token Service, see what they want to build. You've seen some of the challenges from organizations that are doing things, you know, take FPOS, for example. You know, theirs is a browser plugin challenge, and they actually call out, you know, something like MetaMask. That's fantastic. That's what the Hedera ecosystem needs. And then you've got other fantastic challenges as well by the likes of, you know, Google and Chopra Foundation, you know, really looking for where tokenization can really fit in this new world that we're entering. So I'm incredibly excited to tell these stories. Hopefully in a few months' time, we'll be telling a tokenization with everywhere story, and you'll see a lot more to come.
Yeah, I really noticed there's a tokenization protocol challenge by UCL. and they talk
Yes.
about asset agnostic tokens, and that really got my interest. I was just thinking, man, you know, if I had a bit more time, I'd be entering into the hackathon as well, because that's right up our street. That is.
Sure.
Hard not to get
Well,
excited.
if you find a few hours on the weekend, you can.
It's virtual hackathon, right? So you can.
So there's no excuse, really.
Hard not to get excited, Christian. Anytime we have somebody with Hedera on. But one more question. We touched on this in our last video, Christian, and that's on these judges here that we see. There's the two judges who are not council members or who don't have known use cases. Is there any information you can provide and any insights you might have on how these guys are associated and how they've come to judge the Hedera hackathon? That being Jonathan Padilla and the gentleman from Pfizer, I believe.
So I think the main insight I can provide is that Jonathan has a wicked sense of humor, because there was a fantastic meme that someone put together and put out there, and he responded. It's great to have, you know, this caliber of judge involved in the hackathon. And I really can't provide anything more than that, other than you obviously have two individuals that really like what Hedera is trying to do. And, you know, I can't really comment if that's in an official capacity from their company or in a personal capacity, but it's great validation.
So, Christian, one of the things that you might be able to talk about is I saw a video just a few days ago on the Starling case study by Reuters. Maybe we could play a little touch of that.
Yeah, I'll just play a short clip here.
In countries where elections are less trusted, it basically just creates an extra layer of trust around a process which is very much in question at the moment.
So they mentioned the
All right.
extra layer of trust there.
And they're using Hedera. Do you have any insights on their use case?
I do. And, you know, we've been working with Jonathan Doughton, who is at Stanford on this project for quite some time. He spearheads the Project Starling initiative, which is an open source framework for organizations to leverage to really bring a level of trust and transparency into data that they are collecting. So you might be familiar with HALA systems that we talked about recently. You know, Jonathan is involved in that project as well as an advisor. And the Project Starling initiative uses other technologies as well, not just Hedera. They use Filecoin from Protocol Labs as well. But the idea is really, especially around media, there's such an important sweet spot where we really can't trust what we're seeing anymore. And so by embedding as close to possible with the actual hardware itself. So if you have a camera, in the case of the Reuters journalist, that is then taken from the hardware chip and actually logged both in Hedera as an immutable timestamp of that, and then actually stored in a system like Filecoin or IFPS, you can see how you start to bring actual trust and transparency to the integrity of the data from that. So I won't talk too much more about it, because I know Jonathan he's involved in lots of different initiatives around this. And, you know, some of those stories are actively being pitched right now. But we should definitely, Jonathan is such an amazing presenter. When he watches this, he'll probably say, you know, Christian mastered my use case. But we should definitely get Jonathan on. He's really a phenomenal individual. He's also associated with the USC Shoah Foundation, which collects testimony from Holocaust survivors and logs that. So there's an angle there for Project Starling as well. So as he comes on, you know, he'll be able to do a much better job than I've done. So sorry, Jonathan. See you on a future show.
Yeah, hopefully we can get him.
Yeah, we'll reach out for sure. One more for you, Christian. We know that this is sort of the year of scale, as Manson Lehman have referenced. One of the larger use cases, or potential largest use cases, coming on early here is the Coupon Bureau, and that's going to be going live very soon, as far as we know. So, do you have any updates around that use case and how that's coming along?
So the integration, all the work on the development side is complete. And you're right, we've been told that sort of beginning of February, it'll start to really come online. For those that don't know, there is a coupon standard. There was an old one, 8110, which is in the process of being deprecated in favor of this new standard 8112. And 8112, every coupon that's issued by a retailer and redeemed by us is logged on Hedera for that. So as these brands come online and you think about the opportunity to open up now to digital coupons on your phone versus, having a paper coupon, when you go to the store and you're at the checkout and they tear off a long strip of, coupons and hand them to you, that's really what we're talking about. That's the standard that's moving over and is backed by Hedera tokens, Hedera consensus service, sorry. And we don't know what they're going to do as far as transactions per second. The existing market is, one thing, but, we're being told that this will really accelerate these digital coupons, and therefore, we may see the market even expand beyond that. I don't know how quickly these retailers are going to come online, but, we should see fairly soon.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I highlighted in one of my last videos, was that it opens up completely new opportunities. So even though there might be X amount of coupons daily right now that are put out there and redeemed, these new opportunities could create far many more because of the efficiencies and things that are added using Hedera.
Tom, I wanted to mention, while I've got you, it calls to mind another guest we had, Jennifer Kim with Sun Water. And it sounds like she may have a similar use case, in that there's a device that sort of monitors, in her case, water quality or purity or other things, and logs them to the consensus service. So if you're not familiar with
Jesse and Brandon and Tom, if you don't mind, I am sort of a little bit late for another meeting, so I'll drop. Thank you very much for having me on. This has been fantastic.
Yep. Thank you, Christian.
Thank you, Christian.
Thanks, everybody.
See you.
Hopefully we speak again soon. Have a good day. Yeah, so Tom, are you familiar with Sunwater? Did you see that episode by chance?
I did see them, but not the details, if I'm honest. So if you want to remind me what that is, and then I can talk about it.
Yeah, maybe I'll connect you guys, because it seems like there's a similar thing that you guys have going on. One, obviously different industries and everything. Brandon and I were also discussing before the episode, here in the U.S., there's another company who has been in the news related to Hedera and vaccines, and that's Acor. I don't know if you're familiar with Jim's work, and maybe wonder if you have any thoughts around what they're doing, and if that interests you at all.
Yeah, certainly. So, I mean, just talking about Sun Water. It sounds to me like it's a good IoT use case again, and I think we're going to see lots of those coming on stream over the coming months or years. And it's quite a common architecture. So taking data from a device and through some kind of local or infrastructure level network up into the cloud, that's certainly a sweet spot for the Hedera consensus service to be part of that. And I think the challenge for device manufacturers, so the people that make the physical hardware that's either going to be retrofit onto existing goods and appliances, or the appliance manufacturers who are going to be starting to look to build this stuff right in future.
Like LG maybe? They're an appliance.
Sorry, say again?
Like LG maybe? I think they're an appliance.
Yeah, well, LG for sure, and I could name a number of companies that make the fridges as well, who, you know, I've had conversations with them over the previous years, you know, every year, and I go to the shows and we, excuse me, and we talk to them, and even just about sort of IoT-based technology and adding the technology that we have to their products. And, you know, there's a surprising amount of, I don't know if it's resistance specifically, but I think it's more that a lot of incumbents just don't necessarily see the opportunity, or don't, you know, see it as a lot of effort, and it's going to move them from their current position of superiority, maybe within their sector. Yeah, that's a real issue. And so I think, you know, I see what like Sun is doing, and, you know, like we've sort of taken the maths into our own hands now and making our own devices. And as I say, the challenge there is to get the Hedera integration right in the device, so that you know that the moment that piece of data has been created, that it's already been timestamped with a consensus timestamp. And then, of course, you can use HCS as a transport layer, as a pub sub transport layer into your enterprise applications and between your enterprise applications. So that's quite a common architecture. ACOA, what a great use case, right? You know, tracking all the coronavirus case data around the world, and using Hedera to validate or to verify the fact that their data sets, you know, have got provenance. They can track the history of those data sets. And,
it's impressive. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, you know, there's great opportunities there to look at, well, actually, can we do some big data analytics and say, can we cross over things like case data with even temperature monitoring data, and see if there's correlations between case numbers and, you know, places that use automated monitoring systems to show that actually there are other positive benefits of using this technology. You know, I think there are good opportunities from a data perspective.
Yeah, it's impressive how broad across different kinds of industries we're already getting into. You know, as we mentioned, we have water utility with Soon, we have you in healthcare, we have ACOR in healthcare, we have FPOS. So this Internet of Things is broadening out, and most of these are fairly small companies and use cases right now. But then it becomes a guessing game. What are the big boys going to do? What's LG going to do? What's Google going to do? What is IBM going to do?
I think it's safe to say that they're going to do something.
Sure.
Because, you know, what started off as the Internet of Things, I think it's going to become, you know, it is the Internet of Assets. As Christian said, everything's going to be tokenized. And one of the interesting opportunities for us is actually looking at tokenizing data sets and using that as a medium of exchange. And I could quite easily see the day where, you know, we've got tokenized data sets that represent real value, and actually we can then transact with quantities of real data sets, or you can be investing in high quality data sets. The possibilities, and whilst they might sound absurd, you know, I think are quite amazing, really. And time just to see all this stuff pan out, like you say, all the small examples right now that are building up are creating this snowball. And for me, I think it's great to see that a lot of these, you know, like the real world value gets driven by the real companies, the real customers that have actual problems to solve. And that's where the real world adoption is gonna be. And, you know, cryptocurrency and DLT has been on this curve. I think, I mean, if you're familiar with the Gartner hype curve, I think it's safe to say that DLT is definitely, you know, on its way through to the plateau of productivity now. You know, we are starting to see real applications. There's going to be challenges in future around, well, obviously the legislative environment and adoption. You know, convincing people that it's a good thing to do. But that, you know, that's why we're here as a company. It's what we want to do. We want to work with businesses. We want to make this technology more accessible because we see the benefits of adopting this technology. And whilst it may seem new and scary, you know, it really doesn't have to be. And, you know, questions like privacy and I mean, we can, there's a lot of other questions that sort of typically come up when you start talking about DLTs. Like, oh, is my data going to be readable to everybody? And, you know, there's a lot of education that needs to happen, but, you know, we will see that. And I think it's going to be an inexorable wave of adoption that will come over the following years. And, you know, I love seeing that chart today of the, you know, here's Hedera's 3 or 4 million transactions against, you know, versus Ethereum versus all the other networks. And, you know, I think in a year's time, we'll look back at it and the scale won't even make sense anymore, because there's going to be so many transactions going through Hedera. I mean, this coupon bureau use case is mind-blowing, you know, and people just don't get that enterprises move a lot of data, and when integration between enterprises in itself is $1 billion industry, you know, when this technology starts being used for integration, the TPS, the numbers, they just won't mean anything anymore.
Yes. Yeah, it's going to be.
They will mean fee revenue, because that's a very real metric. So we'll be
staking rewards.
That's it. Those transactions all drive value to Hedera, and then in turn to the HBAR. So it's exciting.
Yeah, and great for the community, you know, who've been holding all this time. You know, one of the things that you mentioned about, you know, where we've been in the past. I mean, you guys have been in it since day one, haven't you?
Pretty much. Yeah, we're definitely the OGs.
Yeah, I thought I was late to the party in 2019, but you know, yeah.
I think it's still early days, I think. I always tell people that. Well, guys, anything else? I know everyone's got a busy day. That was a lot of great information. Thank you, Tom, for taking the time to join us today. And you guys have any parting comments as we wave off here?
Not from me, but you know, thank you so much for having me on. Big shout out to the community, and it's been great to be able to talk to some of you online, and I'm so happy to be here doing this video. So it's great to be on the other side of the screen now. So, you know, if you ever want to talk in the future and as we do more stuff, I'd love to come back and tell you what we're doing. And if there's any community follow-up questions, then, you know, please forward them on and I'll be happy to engage.
Good stuff. Thank you, Tom. And thank you, Christian, for coming on. We appreciate your time as well.
Yeah, it's great to talk to Christian again as well.
Well, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on Hedera Forum next time.